Welcome to another episode of the Overcome University podcast. I'm your host, Michael Allison. Today's guest is Stephanie Weeks. She's a successful entrepreneur, financial officer, author, and a podcast host. But she's here to tell us about her story as well of overcoming cancer. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. You know, I was reading your story, and to overcome cancer and to be a successful entrepreneur, that has to lead to a journey of like resilience. Can you tell us about your path, your journey of how you overcame that?
It's still going, so it's not a finished process yet.
Right.
It's a ever evolving thing every single day. But at the same time, it's amazing how things can be put into perspective when you're told you have stage 3 aggressive, invasive, rare, triple negative breast cancer, or any type of diagnosis such as that, right? It really gives you like your world kind of goes from here to like, okay, tunnel vision and what's really super important. And so, as I said, it's still going every single day, just as far as like learning, right? I've
Right.
been cancer free. I made my 3-year mark January
Congrats.
19th, which just recently happened. It's very exciting.
Congrats.
And I actually was diagnosed January 19th of 2021, and it was around 90 something days, and I was cancer free from aggressive, invasive, rare, stage 3 breast cancer. And I couldn't have done that without a lot of laser focus.
When you say laser focus, can you take us back to when you got that news? How did your mindset kick in to hear such drastic news, something that you're not expecting, something that you're not thinking about, and now you have to switch and transition? I have to face this and deal with this and see what I could do to overcome this.
For me, I've done a lot of spiritual work, and I've done a lot of like soul searching, and just over the years, right? I'm just always looking to evolve and be better and do better and learn, right, as I
Right.
go. And it was just like, I had to say, I don't want to learn this lesson again, right? So if you look and you really focus on learning about yourself and learning about, trying to be a better person and learning different
Right.
things like that, um, it really kind of puts you into the moment of, okay, I don't want to do this twice. And I think life's about lessons, right? And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of us learn the same lessons over and over again, and we're going to learn those lessons over and over again until we get it, and we
Right.
we we grow and we learn, and then we move on to, guess what, the next lesson, right? um, so my big focus was really, what is this lesson teaching me?
Yeah.
Because I do not want to repeat this. I want to get this right the first time and understand why I'm going through this, and maybe what I'm supposed to learn through this particular process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. I wanted to touch on something here because I think of you, right? You're a successful entrepreneur and you're in the business space. And now you kind of have to manage being an entrepreneur. It's kind of like when if you was working for a company, it might be a little bit different, right? But now you're the owner, you're the CEO, you're the founder of this company. Can you talk about managing that and balancing that when you're in this space?
I could not have done it, honestly, without my team of people that work with me, because we had been together for several years, and we had a really deep connection, right? They were more than just employees. They were
Mhm.
friends, they were family. I had their back in their tough times, and it turned around to where they had my back in my tough times, right? So
That's amazing.
when they would need me and I would say, I can't participate in this conversation right now. I just can't do that. Like, it's not, for whatever reason it might be, right? They were very respectful of that. And if I would say, I can do it later, or you're just going to have to really try to work this one out on your own, then they were good about getting together and helping each other and trying to work it out on their own. So it's really about the people that you surround yourself with in business and in life, right? Friends, family, and
Right,
family
right.
doesn't have to be by blood, right? I mean, I have plenty of family members that aren't related to me, shall I say. But it's surrounding yourself by the right people and being there for them whenever they need you. And then it's awesome how it's really just beautiful how it is. And they're like, then they show up for you and you didn't even realize that you had shown up for them because you were just trying to do the right thing or something.
Right, right. I want to take this back a little bit because for me, I think about where my resilience came from. It was part of my upbringing and my childhood, seeing what my parents been through and some of the struggles that we face that even led to some of the struggles I faced too, and how I had to overcome things. So when I'm faced with tougher challenges as I was an adult, it was, I would not say it was easier, but I was given some things to put in my toolbox to help me get through some tough times. Can you talk a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing, and if anything from your past led to your mindset in regards to just being strong whenever you was going through some tough times?
I was actually really lucky. I did have come from a divorced family, but
Hmm.
I had my biological father always in my life until he passed, and then my stepfather was in my life since I was 2. And so he's always been dad, never stepdad or anything like that, just dad. And I actually just attended his funeral a few days ago, and he actually served our country as well.
Wow,
It
wow.
was so beautiful, the flag presentation and being right there. But okay, so I digress. But so I had two dads that were good people, right?
Hmm.
And I had a great mom, and they were always very, very involved. And some things I learned because they taught me, and some things I learned because I saw them and what
Hmm.
they went through. And then some things I learned because I saw them and what they went through and said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to repeat that. I don't want to pass that on in the lineage. So it's kind of a combination of all those three different things to figure out how to handle situations like that. And my mom actually had breast cancer probably 10 years before me. I might
Oh,
have that
wow.
number a little bit off. So I helped her through her journey as well. And but even aside from that, well, I'll stick to this question first before I go down a whole nother path. But yes, I had good close family members that were very caring and were very involved, and I learned from them in a multifaceted ways.
Wow. So you mentioned earlier that your approach was more so on a holistic approach. Can you talk to us a little bit about what was it like day to day going through that in regards to like your routine and your regimen when it comes to like your health, your nutrition, your physical activities, those types of things to get to the level that you're at now?
Let me clarify. I did also do chemo and radiation. So it
Hmm.
was, I like to call it more than one direction because it
Okay.
was a merging of so many different modalities. And
Hmm.
remember, I said, I think everything's about lessons.
Right.
And for fun, I studied health, nutrition, cancer causes, cancer cures, different modalities to heal cancer. I subscribed to like different actual scientific journals, read the actual papers from the doctors. And I read all these things and watched all this stuff and took in all these things. I just really enjoyed it. I found it so fascinating how what an amazing thing the human body is. And
Hmm.
when my mom was diagnosed, she asked me for help. And I said, I will do whatever you want. It's your decision. And I still stand to that with any person going through any kind of health crisis. It's your decision. So don't let anyone tell you this is right, that's wrong, whatever. What I do might not be right for you. Maybe some of it is, so on and so forth. So, and you know in your heart what the right decision is. You just have to get rid of all the chatter and listen to the answer that you have within you. And so I said, I'll support whatever it is that you want.
Hmm.
She said, well, I'm going to go ahead and get a double mastectomy with reconstruction because I want to get it out, but I
Mm.
really don't want to do chemo or radiation.
Hmm.
And I was actually her advocate. I went to, along with herself, I went to every doctor's appointment with her. I actually had 3 different doctors ask me if I was in medical school. And I'm like, no, I just read and this is interesting to me and I want to help. And I've been reading it for 20 years for fun. And now I'm like, oh gosh, here I am, helping her out. So I think it's about 13 years now and she's still cancer free, no chemo, no radiation, but did do a double mastectomy. And when it came, but what she also did was she said, I'll listen to your advice, right?
Hmm.
So I put her with a practitioner, and we put her on like a super, super high alkaline diet, put her on a bunch of different supplements and different things like that. She actually dropped like 40 pounds pretty quickly, because what a lot of people don't realize is inflammation leads to many, many of the diseases that we're dealing with right now. And
Hmm.
most people are inflamed and they have no idea that they are.
Hmm.
So that high pH in your body can really help you to drop that weight and get rid of that inflammation.
Hmm.
And from the time that she had the tumor, diagnosed and measured, to the time they took it out, it actually shrank as well. And so I had that whole experience, right? Now, with everything being a lesson, I've always said, and that's just like funny, not funny, right? I've always said, I will never do chemo or radiation. And here I am. I have.
Hmm.
But I feel like the lesson in that part was the fact that there's something that's been calling me to read and study this stuff, right? And there's something that's been calling me to educate myself and educate others when they ask me to help them or educate them, just as a friend or a family member. And I feel like, even though I have mom's story, right? I feel like maybe people need to hear my message. And maybe if I had not done the chemo and radiation, just maybe they might not have taken me as seriously.
Right.
So now I'm going to answer your question. um, I did chemo, radiation. I did acupuncture. I did prayer. I did Reiki energy healing. I did extra juicing, more than I had done in the past. I did 1,000 cc's of saline after every single chemo drip, because dehydration is a big, big thing that causes a lot of problems for survivors. Um, and I did meditation and I did yoga. Um, and through my experience, I actually did updates like live in the moment on my podcast. And now looking back, I didn't realize I didn't have a therapist then, because that was therapy and I didn't even know it. So
Yeah.
I really merged a lot of different things together to show people and learn for myself. You don't have to choose just integrative or just the standard of care or just holistic. Like, you can merge a bunch of different things, because it's not one size fits all. If that makes sense.
All right, I have a lot of questions to follow up with that
Sorry, that was a
because
lot.
no, it was great. It was great. So I have three questions based off of what you just shared. The
Okay.
first one is around, from all of the reading that you've read and understanding more so about what's going on, was can you share what really like stuck out? I know some things you did with your mom and some things obviously probably applied to yourself too. What was like one or two things that truly stuck out when it comes to dealing with cancer that you could share with our audience that they may not even know about?
The first thing that comes to my mind is mindset.
Hmm.
Mindset. I'm going to say it again, mindset, because um and protection of your space. Here's what
Hmm.
I mean by that. I had to do chemo and I was not wanting to do chemo. And so I had to get my mind right around doing chemo, because to me, it makes no sense in the world for the doctors or the nurses to make these names that are negative, scary names that they use instead of the actual names of the drugs, um, to identify what you're putting in your body.
Hmm.
So in my mind, how am I going to heal if I'm like, oh, let me go take some poison right quick? Like, okay, that doesn't make sense. It's not aligning. So in the mindset of even the fact of taking chemo, which I thought I would never do, and because it was rare and aggressive and invasive, a funny little tidbit is that my mom's oncologist that she still sees, because we always get checkups and stuff, when she told him that I had breast cancer, I was diagnosed, and then she told him that I was doing chemo, he stopped what he was doing and he was like, I'm sorry, excuse me? Because I mean, I drilled this man like to understand everything, right?
Hmm.
And then she said, well, she's triple negative. And he said, well, then she will probably die if she doesn't do that.
Mm.
Because on a positive, with triple negative, it seems to be one of the ones that respond the best to chemo. So that's a positive note. But so I had to get my mindset right. And when I would go into these drips, I would, number one, pack my little journal, bring my little meditations to listen to. I was very lucky, and I highly advise to have a friend or family member at every single one.
Hmm.
Because can you think of a time in your life, with now how busy things are, that you've been able to spend undivided time, maybe 8 hours, with a loved one, where neither one of you are on your phone, you weren't working, there weren't really many interruptions, and it was just like one-on-one quality time? How rare is that these days?
That's very rare. And as you said, I just thought about it. Me and my wife went to Alaska and we did a retreat. And the beauty about that was it was mandatory, no cell phone, no TVs or anything. And it was one of the best times. And I think you know that Alaska, there it's pretty much daytime all day long.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I've been. I love it. I love it. I've been. Yeah.
but yeah, I could think of that. That was probably the only time. And in this days and time, we may even get an hour, if that.
Yes. And so, how amazing is that? That at all of these treatments, I had one on one with
Right.
loved ones. And so, that was a protection of the space, all the way down to the drip itself.
Hmm.
I could not, in good conscience, number one, I wouldn't allow any of the medical providers to speak negatively of the drug or use those negative names that they make up, right? I'm like,
Hmm.
you can't say that in my space. That's not allowed.
Mm.
And so even with the chemo drip, I would sit there and I would envision that it was liquid gold, just
Mm.
going just smoothly and beautifully through my body like sunlight, and picking up the things that it needed to kind of gather, like a cleansing, right? And
Mhm.
then leaving the things that it wasn't really meant to touch. And then leaving once the drip was done. And so even that, and that's not easy, because a lot of times, you feel so bad. You really do. You'll feel less bad with those saline drips that I mentioned dramatically. But still, I mean, you're going through a lot of things and processing a lot of things. So the mindset's very, very important, and protecting your space. I think it is so huge. It's so huge.
Did you know when you started creating videos and started sharing your story that you would become an advocate and helping other people out there that may be dealing with some of the same things you were dealing with?
I really had no idea. I just really tried to listen and say, what am I supposed to do today? And I
Mhm.
didn't make a rule. Like, it wasn't like I'm going to update every Friday or something. It was just like, okay, today's the day to go and do an update. And it made it easier because I didn't have to repeat and repeat, right?
Mhm.
Um, so I didn't know in the moment. And even now, I've gone back. I'm going to go back to each one, but I've gone back to one so far and like listen to it as I re-record myself now for the whole hindsight's 2020, which was really fun. I've not posted that yet, but I didn't know. I just wanted to figure out what I was supposed to learn. And therefore, sometimes when we learn, we're also supposed to teach. I don't know the path of that yet, but I really do hope that I can instill hope in some of the survivors, or all of the survivors. Actually, why not?
Absolutely. I want to talk, actually, if you could talk about something that I think it's very important for women to hear you. And it's around relationships. And let's just say a woman has just been told that she's been diagnosed with cancer and she's in a relationship. From some conversations that I've had with other women, sometimes they feel less than when they're in a relationship, knowing that they're going through this type of situation. Can you speak towards that type of situation, and what advice could you give a woman that could be married, could be in a relationship or anything like that, but they're facing such a tough time?
It's a really hard thing to answer, and it could probably take 10 minutes. So I'll do with what comes to top of mind. And I know that this is not uncommon because I've seen it posted, but I had a friend ask me, and she was going through the treatments, and she was going through a similar situation, not the same diagnosis, but also breast cancer, mastectomy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And she was a couple months ahead of me. She asked me one day, she said, how do you look in the mirror? Like, I look in the mirror and I just see Frankenstein. Like, how do how are you handling that? And I said, well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I am cut up like Frankenstein. It's no doubt. Like, I have scars all over. Okay. Lumpectomy, mastectomy, 2 or 3 reconstructions, had to get a hysterectomy. Before that, I had a C-section. It's just like, hey, here you go. Here's some more to throw on there. But somehow I have been able to see it as beauty. Like, I see my scars and I go, oh my God, like, not even just what I survived, but like, oh my God, like the miracle of a medicine that the doctor, and I'm just going to be blunt, right? Gutted me like a fish, because when you get a mastectomy, like, you're indented, like they dig everything out. So you're concave, right?
Hmm.
One thing I did that I think helped me, and I would suggest, is the reconstruction with the mastectomy. So I never saw the concave. I can't
Hmm.
imagine the emotional trauma that causes for the women who have. Okay.
Right.
So I had reconstruction right with the mastectomy. But looking at my scars and going, this is incredible. Like, the doctor gutted me like a fish, and then rebuilt new breast from parts of my body. Like, I
Hmm.
don't have implants or anything. And if I had to choose these versus the old ones, there's no question. Like, the old ones, these are like way better. Okay. And so it's just the fact that they could do that and make that and create that. And the fact that the doctor, um, Dr. Trahan, at the St. Charles or Center for Restorative Breast in New Orleans, but the fact that he's such an artist, that each body is a canvas, and the fact that he could see, right? Because one doctor does the mastectomy and then he's in there working on the reconstruction. And the fact that he could see this just tortured canvas, right? And see what he could make out of it and create from its own self. Like, my mind is blown with appreciation, gratitude, and just beauty of the scars. And I think that people can get there. I don't know that it's like an instant little, oh, just think of it this way. It doesn't work like that. But I think in further discussions, it's something that can definitely be attained at some point. And I think that that mindset is just, I can give you 50 other examples, but that's just a big one that I think is really important.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. So, Stephanie, I wanted to transition a little bit about your career before we get ready to wrap up here. You, I saw that you're one of the top 1% loan officers. Can you tell us about how did you even get to this feat and then still be able to practice now? Because you just talked about all of these things that you was dealing with, and to be in the top 1%, that takes another level of dedication and focus. So can you talk a little bit about your career and how you was able to achieve this as well?
Yes. I believe, again, everything's a lesson, right? So
Mhm.
my plan was to be a medical malpractice attorney, insurance defense attorney. And
Mhm.
I ended up being a loan officer because life happens, right? But in a beautiful way. And so I took all of the training I had done as a paralegal, and all the certifications and the bachelor's degree and the associate's degree that I had, and applied each and every loan like a court case. And
Mm.
I looked at it like, we all have the same information, but one's going to get approved, one's going to get denied, one's going to win, one's going to lose. And so by taking that approach, along with the fact that you can't be black and white, life's not black and white, loans aren't black and white, people's finances are definitely, for the love of, not black and white. Okay.
Right.
And so you have to look at that, and you have to look at it like, again, like art or like a case or like a canvas, and say, how do you structure this and put it together? So along with the hours and dedication and just the loving of what I was doing and the loving of helping and having the gratitude of like, oh my gosh, I really got this loan approved that was denied, or whatever the case might be, or it was really smooth and their past experience was bad. It just helped to, for me to get a name for myself of, she's going to help you. She's going to call you back. If she can't help you, she's going to tell you. She's not scared to
Mhm.
tell you. She's going to be frank with you about everything. And if if
People
she
appreciate
can't get
that.
it done, then nobody can get it done. And so that really, I think that contributed to a lot of it. And I have to say too, I mean, my team and the people that are behind me that you don't always get to see. I mean, there's no way I could have done it without them. Even now, um, now we're just a mighty team of two. We were large before all the things happened. Um, Even now, I can't do it by myself because there's still so many things that I deal with. And really, it's kind of like a marriage. She's the yin to my yang, and like we kind of fill each other's gaps. And so, what it results in is a really great experience and opportunity for the clients that work with us.
Absolutely. Now, I saw that you also wrote a book and you put some of your knowledge and your information inside of this book. Can you tell our readers about your book as well?
I had been repeating myself so many times on the same questions. And I was like, there must be a book out there. I looked for years, I couldn't find one. And I would say, well, then I'm going to write it. And I never would. And so what happened was one year I said, you know what? Starting next year, starting January 1, I think it was 2018 maybe, or somewhere around there, I said, I am going to write an hour a week because something's going to happen. I'm tired of saying it's going to happen. It doesn't. So I dedicated myself to like an hour a week. And of course, that kind of flowed from there. And within 18 months, from nothing to a completely published book for sale, it was complete. And the point is to understand, what we need and why, and explain some of the things that seem so silly, like why in the world do you need that? And just make it a quick, really easy, really smooth read to understand, like what am I about to go through, and what kind of things might they ask me, and why might I think those things are stupid, but why might they make sense, right?
Mhm.
I've gotten a lot of really, really good feedback on the book just because it's simple and quick, but it's just like layman's terms of like how it works, and kind of like unveiling the curtain, right? The Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, like what's going on when you're doing a mortgage loan. So that's the scoop of the book.
Thank you so much. And readers can get the book on Amazon or from Stephanie's website as well too. So Stephanie, being that you've been on this journey, right, and you was diagnosed with cancer, still going through it in regards to advocating for it too as well. Can you share some key takeaways or some key lessons from your story that our listeners could take from you that it could make an impact or inspire their lives as well?
Well, first of all, they can always reach out because I'm very, very, very happy to help.
Mhm.
And the second thing is you need to advocate for yourself and definitely get more than one opinion. I went
Mm,
through, I think, 3 doctors to find the right one. I'm not saying they were bad doctors. They could have been amazing. You might have thought they were the best in the world. I thought, you're not for me, right? And you might have thought my doctor wasn't for you. So it's a big thing that you're going through. Don't rush in. Don't lallygag, right? Because you can't waste time. But just get a few opinions and have a few meetings so that you find the person that you're really comfortable with. You're about to get really, really personal. I would say that. I would say really, really do anything you can to get your mindset in a good space, whether that be
mhm.
guided meditations or inspiring channels. Anything you can do to get your mindset in a good space is really going to also make a difference. And I would say the third thing would be just make sure you advocate for yourself and speak up. Speak up no matter how silly you think the question is. I don't care if they answer the question 4 times for you already. Ask the question again until your brain goes, got it. Because you need to understand what's going on. You need to survive this, and you need to come out on the other end better than you went in.
Absolutely. So, Stephanie, if anybody wanted to work with you or book you on their podcast or find out more about you, where can they find you?
You can DM me on Insta, which I know you have the handle up there, or you can reach out through my website. Any of those things are totally fine.
Absolutely. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on the Overcoming Adversity podcast show. It's been a pleasure to have you come on and share your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate all that you're doing.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys, God bless.
Ain't complain at all. Couple dollars in my pocket, no income and go. Been working on my body, getting healthier. Thank God for clarity.